All right, I'll get the ball rolling and we'll go through all the boring admin stuff first before we dive into everyone's questions, which is what you guys came here today. I want to welcome you all to our Q&A with Qlik webinar series. We are so excited to have all of you with us today for our August session, which is on visualizations. So we try to cover visualizations at least twice a year, since app development and displaying data is always top of mind, especially for our end users. The timing for this session, however, really turned out to be perfect because Qlik just released our new Simplified Authoring experience earlier this month. Really changes the game of creating your own visualizations. So we're really happy to field those questions on that matter as well, if you've come to hear a little bit more about that. This webinar series is a live question and answer session. You might have seen us refer to it as our live office hours with our expert panelists. We want you to use this time to ask a question on today's topic and get to know the Qlikies a bit more. For those of you who are new to Q&A with Qlik, I am Katie Davis, and I will be your moderator for this session. I'm a senior community program manager, which is bringing support-related events like these to our users and working on various digital channels out on Qlik community. So that's where you can find me. You can message me, is out on our Qlik community. I help write our support updates blog. That's another great place to get support and product news. I'm located in Philadelphia, which is along the East Coast of the United States. So I'm sorry for my heavy Northeastern Philadelphia accent, for those of you who can hear it. Now, before I introduce our panelists, I'll go over our session parameters. Everyone is currently on mute, and we ask that you type your questions in the Q&A panel below. So let me show you what that looks like. Right here is our Q&A. Just type the questions in there, and that's where we'll get them and field them during the questions. You can also chat with us during the session, and that's how we'll get to hear from all of you. We won't be answering it directly, we'll be speaking to them live. So our survey link will pop up when the session is ended. It's also shared as a QR code in this presentation, so please be sure to complete it. It takes 10 seconds. We'll also email that survey with the recording to all who registered, whether you're attending now or you're not able to make it. We're hoping you're watching this recording. Our survey link is really easy. I think it asks one question and it helps us know what we can do better. We'd love for you to share the topic ideas with us if you want to see what's coming up in future sessions. We have the next 3 sessions listed out on Qlik community, so definitely check those out and register. But if you want to send me ideas on Qlik community or through our email, digital@qlik.com, that makes my job a lot easier, as then we know what next session to plan for you guys. Now back to why we are all here today, which is visualizations. We ask that you keep your questions relative to today's topic. And while we do have our Qlik experts on the line, we will not be able to answer any of your questions regarding a specific open case. We have an impressive lineup of panelists today. Thank you all for letting me steal some of your time. I'll start listing them off, and then each of you can introduce yourself. We'll go in the same order I list you off. So we'll start with Patrick. He is our Director of Product Management. We have Chuck Bannon, who is a Director of our Demo team. We have Dragos Balui, a Senior Solution Architect, and Frank Savino, who is representing our support organization today as a Principal Technical Support Engineer. So thank you all for being here. Let's start with Patrick. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Thanks a lot. Really nice to be here. Excellent topic of today. So I'm the PM for QlikSense Visualizations and Analytics. Been with Qlik since 2017.
Awesome. Chuck?
Yes, thanks for having me. Chuck Bannon. I run the Demo and Innovation team at Qlik. I've been with Qlik for just about 14 years now. So
Wow.
I'm an old school guy. It used to just be Qlik view when I started.
Wow. You've seen it all. You've seen the transformation.
I have, yes.
All right, Dragos.
Yeah, so my name is Dragos Balhui. I'm the solution architect for the Canadian region. Been with Qlik for over 6.5 years, looking after different geographies. Now in this region, I've been for the past 2.5 years. So yeah, that's about it.
Great. And last but not least, Frank, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Frank Savino, and I've been with Qlik since 2015, and I'm Principal Technical Support Engineer. Do a lot of work with QlikView, QlikSense, and of course, Qlik Imprinting Reporting and the SaaS reporting, Qlik reporting version of a reporting tool. There you have it.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, so everyone, remember the Q&A below. Make sure to type in your questions so we get to them today. I've scoured our community and cases and have some questions I'll kick us off with. Hopefully they apply to you. If not, that's why you're here. Ask your questions. So I'll start off with a filtering question. We have a couple, and I think it's pretty interesting with the new simplified authoring experience. We have a lot new and better ways to filter. So this question is it possible to create dynamic filters? I want to have a selectable time period for data submission and in turn recalculate the rank over the sum. So it looks like they want to use dynamic.
Yeah, so this probably relates to the simplified authoring and the new way that we do chart filtering. Maybe I can share my screen at the same time. So in this specific, I'm not sure which screen am I sharing. Can you see some kind of Sense dashboard, perhaps? No.
I don't see anything. I think it's in the Zoom webinar. It's almost like a 2-click that you have to do. So something's coming through. There we go. We see 219 features.
Yes, fantastic. So this is the simplified authoring experience. And we have this easy way of doing filtering here. So I can drop a field, for instance, to say that I want to see everything except geo for the new features. Then I drop that over here. And I can click exclude and I can click geo. So that's the simplified authoring. That's normally you would have to do this with set analysis. Not that that is specifically hard, but you need to know a bit about set analysis. But now it's single click doing things. So this is a much easier way to do simplified filtering. That's the purpose of doing more specific things, having some kind of specific date range connected to rank. Then I would say that set analysis is your best friend. Then you can do anything. Set analysis is like if this is the Volvo of filtering, then set analysis is your Ferrari. So then you want to do more heavy stuff, then you should do that. We will expand on the filtering. It's very much based on user testing, on how people perceive this, what they ask for. And I know people would like to do a bit more date filtering. You can do date filtering, but it's not that super obvious. But when you line the question, the way that the question is phrased, I would say I would do that with set analysis, and it's great fun as well.
Okay, great. And I think that kind of feeds into the next question. When would you recommend using chart filtering versus set analysis? I think this comes off one of the posts that we had in community where it's recommended that you don't use set analysis and chart filtering at the same time on the same visual.
Yeah, if you're like me, a bit confused, then you're probably not a good thing to do that at the same time, because you just end up, it's like doing two things at the same time. Normally doesn't play out well with me. So simplified filtering is for simplified filtering. So if you want to just click and do simple things, more easier things, and you don't want to bring out the big cannon of set analysis. If you want to do something more heavy, then set analysis, you can do anything.
Okay, And we have more questions in the Q&A along this same topic. So Rory asks, when you add the new filters, it pops up some text at the bottom of the chart, which explains how the chart is filtered. That's pretty useful. Is there any way to edit or remove this?
So this is, it kind of hijacks the footnote field with a predefined text. So it lays out the text. Now you did this filtering. If you go in and write something else in the footnote, that will override that. So it's the default value that you want to change later on. But just as a reminder, when you are, I mean, we in the Sense community, we are used to global filters. If you select on something, you are filtering the whole app, or you are making selections. And that is how we're trained, and that's, I mean, that's the beauty of Sense. But sometimes, in very specific reasons, you might want to remove some kind of value from some chart. And then it's important, of course, to tell the user that, otherwise you're lying somehow. You kind of expect that this type should be included as well. But now I did, on purpose, went in and removed that specific value. So that is a hint that if you are using this type of filtering, either through simplified filtering or with set analysis, you have a responsibility to explain what you're doing. Otherwise, it becomes pretty confusing.
Okay. And it looks like we have two similar questions, one from Lon Lon. How could I disable the selection function of a variable in the chart and table? And another person asks, how would I exclude selections in a chart?
Oh, then you are going with set analysis. There's a way to, if you do sum of sales, I'm stealing all questions now, so jump in when you, so if you do,
That's fine.
yeah. So let's switch over here. And if I go in here and I have some kind of count of features, if I go in.
Oh, we're not seeing
no,
your screen.
We're not seeing.
No, anything.
So we'll get it by the end of it. It's fine. Perfect. Now we're seeing it.
Yes. I'm writing like this. That this tells me to ignore all the selections. So I can do like that. So if I make selections somehow, it will still show the same. It's funny, right? And that is also available in the simplified authoring. So if I go in here and I revert my changes, where did my undo? Let's switch over here, clear selection, and I go in here. Oh. And I go in and add a filter. No. And I do clear selection. So selection is field outside of shall be ignored. All other selections are respected. So this is a way to force to ignore the selection. And right now I'm ignoring the selection of chart type. Yeah.
Great.
So you can also do it in simplified authoring.
Awesome. Okay. We'll jump into another topic, but feel free to keep on asking your questions on filtering if you have more. Can I lock objects when going from advanced to the new classic edit mode? The layout rearranges when I switch between.
So I tested this. You're in advanced, you make some kind of selections, or you make some kind of KPIs over here. I add some measures. I make a histogram. And I make some funny stuff. And then I switch over to the simplified way. And it keeps my layout unless I click on the padlocks. Don't click on the padlocks if you want to preserve the layout. So unlock sheet layout. If you don't do that, it will be preserved. So I can do whatever I want and then go back to advanced options and it's still the same.
Great. So there's that little block right at the bottom.
Yes.
All right. And we'll jump into our next question. I want to create a timeline chart visualization for each project that shows deadlines and what is my location on the line. How can I do it? that maybe be Gantt view, or is there other timeline views?
Yes, I steal this one as well. Let's see.
That's all right. We're loving it. You already have the
Yeah.
screen open.
Yes, so this was actually part of my 24 days of visualizations. So there's no specific Gantt chart or activity chart in a sense, but there's ways that you can kind of mimic that or cover 80% of your use cases. So a timeline chart or a Gantt chart, yeah, you can do it in different ways, but here's one way to do it. So normally you have some kind of activities with a start date and a duration. Maybe you have some kind of completion rate. Then you can use the new stacked combo, the new combo chart, and use the new color per measure. So I take my combo chart and I add two measures, one with minimum start date and the other one with sum of duration. And then I set the x-axis to maximum and minimum of start and end date. Now it starts to look something like a Gantt chart. And then I color the offset, which is the minimum start date, to be transparent. And then I color the task. In this case, I'm coloring by the group of the tasks. And then I can go ahead and add reference lines for today. I could add little markers for milestones. And if I use alternate dimensions, I can also group my tasks if I want to. That's one way to do it. Also, the new dimension-based reference lines is a nice way to use for timeline references. So, for instance, you have some kind of activities going on, and then you could use something like this, for instance. So
Oh, very cool.
And then I can add the measures and I can paste them up and down. So that's one way to do it.
Awesome.
Another
I
one.
really liked the grouping feature that you showed. I think that was a question that I saw throughout community a lot, whether that was a scatter plot or stack bar. How can we group sections?
Yeah. So the more that we add additional features to the product, then the more things that are not really described in the reference manual pops up that you can actually do. So it's have a look at the community on tips on how to do specific things. Otherwise, we posted these visualization tips apps, and they are full of these types of tips. So we're preparing a seventh one. For instance, on how to do parallel coordinates charts. There is no parallel coordinate chart today in the portfolio, but you definitely can do it with a line chart if you follow a recipe.
Wow.
Not that hard, but yep.
It looks difficult, but if you're telling me it's not, then sure. Well,
I can attest to that because I used Patrick's app to build a Gantt chart for an internal app for my team. And it turned out perfectly. So good direction on that.
Amazing. Awesome. We'll definitely share that across with the posting for everyone. We post the recording a week after today, so keep an eye out on the Q&A with Qlik page, and we'll share some of the resources, the questions that were asked. We have some more questions in our Q&A. Thank you guys for asking. Lan asked, does Qlik Sense have the same function? Are you asking Qlik Sense on premise, perhaps like Qlik Sense on Windows? Because we are showing Qlik Sense on cloud, and I believe the simplified authoring service is just for our cloud customers. Correct, Patrick?
Lots does Sense have I mean, most of the tips that I've set together are on client managed. So there are a few things
great.
that only work on cloud, but and normally they also work in all versions of Sense. Sometimes they rely on some specific new functionality, like the combo charts, color per measure that was from August last year. But in many cases, you can can be applicable on anything.
All right. So we're showing it all in Qlik Sense today.
Yeah. So yeah, but sometimes I've switched. This was this was on cloud, so it's not that, but normally it's not bound to anything specific. But the simplified authoring is cloud only, or it's released there because it's based on new architecture that only lives in the cloud right now.
Yeah, so Qlik sends SaaS for new authoring, but the set analysis that we were showing, that all is on premise and available through that. Okay, so Rory, you have a long question here. Bear with me as I try to ask it. I sometimes use a dual function to display, for example, values and percent labels on each bar in a single dimension bar chart. However, when I do the same in a stacked bar chart with 2 dimensions, the dual thing doesn't work. It throws an error. The chart is not displayed because it contains only undefined values. Is there any way to work around this? I tried using a Meko chart, but it's not quite as good. Are you guys following along?
Yeah, so that is one of the tips I usually have to modify the data label. So let me see if I can. Sharing something new? No? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So in this case, I'm having this kind of arrow with a percentage sign or something going on over here, and it only works if you don't have 2 dimensions at the same time. So it's a hidden feature, or more or less a hidden feature that works on single dimension charts. I haven't seen it being able to work on stacked charts. However, I could, the obvious answer is don't use stacked bar charts. They are really ugly, and it's hard to see the values, especially when you have. Where did that go? I think I have that over here.
What alternative would you suggest for a stacked bar? Would it be like a bar with a line graph to show 2 values and how they're relating?
Yeah, maybe 2 at the same time. Maybe the trellising. Yeah. There is yeah, I mean, in many cases, you want to present something. If you feel the need to present a lot of, if you feel the need that you want to add a lot of things at the same time, if you feel the need to show a lot of things at the same time, then you probably want to do something else. So then I can recommend to use charts in tooltips, so that you provide an overview first, and then you provide details later. Instead of trying to stack everything into at the same time, you may be better off by presenting something. And if the user is interested and want to have more information on that specific thing, then you could use that type of functionality to present something else. Overview first, and then details later. There's a lot of you can also work with containers in a similar manner. So sometimes you feel the need that you have to have a lot of text in your dashboard to explain what everything is doing. Then it's a good thing to place a container with a secondary tab with a help explanation. So when the user is used to the dashboard, it doesn't need to have all that text or explanations. Then you can have that secondary information in a tab instead. Maybe something like that. Or what did you say, Chuck?
No, I think you answered that correctly. That, maybe you don't have to show everything all at once, but sort of like a progressive disclosure. Give them the high level first, and if they need more details, the custom tooltip is phenomenal, because you could add whatever other details you need to give the user context.
And how does tooltips and containers kind of fit in with the storytelling? Is that another way to show to a storytelling feature?
Sometimes I see storytelling is not just the storytelling part of the product. I think the best apps that you build is probably when you have some kind of idea, some kind of story to tell, and you use first the app, and then the sheets, and then the container tabs, and then the custom tools, everything to build up to the same story.
It's more for
Storytelling,
structuring.
yeah, I think so. Storytelling feels more about like some kind of slideshow to me. But I would say that the story that you want to tell, it's yeah. I know many people are building guided analytics or guided applications, and then they try to build some kind of user flow through the app. So people are quite used to that. And I think sometimes you have to resist the urge to lay everything out at the same time, to show everything on the menu, but to some kind of selective disclosure of things.
That's great. And Rory says, good point to that. It's not a nice chart. Sometimes the customer is sometimes quite insistent. And it's sometimes to be a better part to whole chart than a pie chart. Yes. Yep. Agreed. All right. Lan Lan has a question again. But she says if it's too long, we can skip it. But it's really similar to another question I had on my list. So I'm going to ask it and see where we go with it. How could I customize the data visualization with the fonts and color I want? And I have another question along the same lines. Maybe we can kill two birds with one stone. I'm looking to add custom color codes to my visualizations on Qlik Sense. How could I choose the colors without using the built-in codes?
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, starting with the fonts, we are in the beginning of releasing new functionality here, but we already have today something called font family support in the custom themes. So you can create your own theme and then set up to use fonts for anything that you find specific. Also, with the new simplified authoring, you actually have font control over the title, subtitle, and footnotes, and that is where we start. And this is where on client manage in advanced properties, you have access to the title, the subtitle, and the footnote for the bar and the pie chart. But for simplified authoring, you have that for all the charts. So this is the start. This is where you can begin to use different types of fonts. You can already today if you use custom themes and set the font family. As for the setting the colors, I would say the easiest way to set any type of color, this is how it's been built into Sense, that either you use the standard, the themes, color scale and palette, but there's also one way to do it. You go in and then you make your dimension a master dimension. And when you have done that, you can go in under the master dimensions on the chart types, and then you can edit the value colors. So maybe advanced charts, they should have some kind of blue color, and my app category should be beige, and the base charts, well, they should be red. And then I can save that. And then the advantage, I mean, it was a bit tricky. I have to do a master dimension and I have to assign the colors. But then if I start to do another chart, for instance, let's say I do a pie chart, and then I add this dimension to it and some kind of, and then it will reuse the colors. And that is a really strong, that's probably the most important visualization advice I can give, is to if you are going to use colors in your app, make sure that you use them consistent, because there's no simpler way to confuse people than to use a different color for everything all the time, because then it's better off that you make a black and white dashboard. And so that's the reasoning behind it, why we chose to add colors to the to the master dimension. That's why we decided to, I think that was back in the day. We are now opening up to be able to pick colors for certain fields, and then you can promote them to master dimensions. Probably we hope to maybe launch that as something in the beginning of next year. An easier way to pick colors for a specific chart, and then you can, when you are feeling done with it, you can promote it to a master dimension and you can reuse it. But otherwise, I think the best way to create your whole app without thinking so much about fonts and colors, just use this one plain color, and then when you're done, try to think, what do I want the colors to represent? And then I pick the colors either for some kind of values or some kind of scale.
Great. So
and fonts are hard.
But
I mean, that's, yeah, maybe you have some kind of corporate guide that you have a font that you should follow, then it's probably wise, but it's not all the charts are fit to be good in data visualization, but you certainly can do it.
Great. And Laurie is asking about a bar chart. Can I create a bar chart that hides all of the bar's dimension labels except for one, which is the selected value? It's a good question, Laurie.
Yeah, I mean, you either switch off all the labels, and then you could mixture with the value labels. You can turn off for everything except for the selected one. That's probably doable. And you can use the dual trick. So having a dual text representation. So if there is only one selected, you probably need to force so you show all the values. And then if there's only one selected, then you should, not sure if it's such a nice, maybe you have a really good use case for it, but kind of, it's not something I've ever used, but maybe I miss out something, or maybe I try it out.
All right. Or, and Rory suggested, could you turn all the other values white? So maybe it's just an eye trick. That's a workaround.
So what I was going to suggest is that, and I'm sure there's a blog on the Qlik design blog that someone on my team has already written about, and what we call it is brushing, right? So using set analysis, you can highlight the certain bar that is selected, and then the rest of the bars don't go away, but they fade almost into the background. So like a light gray or some other color that indicates that they're kind of turned off, where the one that is selected has, actual color to it.
Awesome. And since you brought that up, Chuck, I'm going to share my screen and use this time. Everyone, feel free to get your questions as I'm sharing my screen. Let me pull this up. So here you'll see me on Qlik Community. I'm landed on Patrick's 24 days of visualization, which was my favorite thing to follow over the holidays. He has really great tips out here. So we'll post this version here. They range from simple to difficult, but Patrick was saying the simple ones are the most important. So you don't know what you don't know. Let me see. It was, I think, this is a post from Janelle on our Qlik design blog. So if you go over to Qlik Community and hit blogs, it'll take you right to all of our top blogs. We have an innovation blog, we have my support updates blog, but the design blog has a lot of cool things in app development and visualization. It even gives you up-to-date items. This is additional styling options for bar chart by Janelle, and there's other things you can check out and explore. So definitely check out the design blog.
Yeah, I sent you a link, Katie. It's actually a response to a question that came in that Janelle wrote some years back. It's in the chat. So
oh, perfect. Let's see.
It's called custom report. So it's a way to create a table where the user picks the, without going into edit mode, picks the columns that's that he wants or she wants to have in her table, and then can do export. So it's called a self-service report, and then she describes a recipe for how to do that in Sense. It's quite easy. You just create 2 dimensions with the values, with the dimension names and the measure formulas that you want to include in your table, and then you add that some formulas to your table and to filters. So quite easy tip as well. There's an example in this blog post as well.
Awesome. I'm sending that to everyone. So if you guys want to pull it up on your side, you can flag it, look through it. Chuck will have to just tell Janelle that she got a shout out during our session today. So thanks, Janelle, for these awesome.
She'll be quite happy about that.
All right.
So my team basically every other week does publish something to the Qlik Design blog, along with Mike Tarallo and some other guest authors. So always being updated every week, multiple times a week sometimes. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. We would love to write a blog about it.
Yeah, the Qlik Design blog is a great place to go. We also have a Qlik gallery, which is linked right here, and you can see different featured apps, dashboards, full of all different types of visuals. So if you see something you like and you want to copy it, they all have QVDs attached, and you can, copy and paste, look for something maybe out in your industry. We have industry groups that you can learn from other people if you want to see what kind of visualizations work for them. And then in our analytics forum, we have app development, even Insight Advisor APIs might be something of interest to those who are on today's call. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and get to some of these questions because it seems like we have a lot coming in. Okay. What is the best way to create a self-service report where the user can choose the order of measures?
Yeah, so that was the Janelle blog post.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. And then Louise is asking, I would love to see a drag drop native capability one day.
Oh, so yeah. Actually, it's on the roadmap. We are working on something right now that we have similar functionality to the table, maybe early next year. We'll see, but it's not that hard. We do all kinds of things in Qlik, and it's a 5-minute job.
Awesome. So if anyone else has other great ideas like Louise, out on Qlik community, on that top ribbon, we have a whole tab for ideation, and you can post your ideas there, or you can look at everyone else's ideas and upvote the ones you like. Those get the most attention from our developers is the upvoted ones. So thank you for sharing. We love all of your feedback. All right. And then going way back to the Gantt chart that we did earlier in this session, Polina, you've had this question out. I'm sorry, I've let it linger. How can these examples of Gantt chart can be built via the API?
Yeah, I mean, you could create an app and then just link that app in and launch it through the API, or you can build up this Gantt chart from scratch using the API by adding the dimensions, adding all the different steps in through the API. So it's possible to do. But if I want to do such a complex thing, pretty complex, I'd probably make a Sense app first, and then I use the API to embed it somewhere else.
Okay, great. All right, we only have a few questions left on our end, so make sure to get your questions in if you want us answering it today. You can feel free to continue to post your questions all throughout Qlik community and on this recording, and we'll definitely have our experts take a look at it. This question is, how can I save a custom visualization as a master visualization? Any tips for that?
Yeah. I mean, normally you would just right-click it and say add to You go into edit mode, right click, add to master items.
It's that easy.
That's what I would do.
Perfect.
Maybe it's something trickier, the question, but for any way to do add an ordinary master visualization to as a master visualization, you just right click and add it to master items.
Great. And if you have more problems on that, let us know. All right. Can a user use the fields, not master items, when developing a page in a published app? Right now, only master items are accessible in the assets panel when the app is published. Thoughts on that?
So I know that the fields are still available in the published app when navigating in the when using the selection tools. So those fields will be available over there. I'm not sure if you can still use them in building additional new visualizations, but the selection tool is still opening up for every field that is available. So I can actually share my screen and show what I mean.
Perfect.
So let me know when you guys are able to see my screen.
Yep, it came through.
Yep. So in a published app, let me take one application that is published already. Or actually, we can take one of those. And let's move it to, it's already there, it's already published. So in a public sheet, if I'll duplicate it and start editing, hopefully this will come through. You should have access also to fields and on master items. Now, I think is this question related to QlikSense on premise on Windows? Because most probably this is where the issue comes.
It's not specified, but I say we can continue with that assumption.
Okay, so unfortunately, I don't have a QlikSense on Windows example a server right now running that I can play with as we speak. But if that's the case, in that situation, you still have it in the selection tool. So you'll still be able to access all the fields in here. However, I'm not sure if building an app, you would still be able to do it in the edit mode.
Okay.
It's kind of the purpose of having a published app and master items and stuff that you want to hide. Normally in a fully production app, you might have lots of fields and you don't want the user to interact with all of them. So it's a feature that you can't edit everything.
Right.
But it kind of depends on what you want to do.
Okay. Perfect. And then, Carol, I think you might be our last question for today. It says, on pivot table, I can display count of students per course, but would also like to add 1% of all courses in departmental and 2% of all courses in school. My rows are school, department, course. My columns are year. Okay, let me think. On pivot table, I can display count. So you can display count and you're looking to also add percentage, is that it?
Yeah, she probably wants to do some kind of relative calculation. She can do count, but in order to do relative, she needs to count the total of all courses in the department or all the courses in the school. So normally, if you do a straight table or any other chart, you could use the relative modifier. You have some count of courses, but the pivot table is a bit tricky because you are mixing so many dimensions at the same time. So the easiest way is first to calculate using perhaps an AGR function that you iterate over all the courses in the department and doing a count and keep that value. I normally make that count first, and then I add that as a column. So I know that I have, okay, this is the total. Then I just do count of courses divided by that one. But it would normally be something, an AGR function is you do this iteration and you find out the sum of all courses in the department or the sum of all courses in the school, and you use that value to create the relative one.
Okay.
So maybe
Right.
we can, maybe I can point to an easy. Yeah, if you search for the community, you can maybe you can also use total, depending on how complex your pivot table is. Depending on, but first I would like to find out but since you say it's a department and a school, you probably need some kind of AGR function to calculate the correct value first.
Yeah, and I would suggest again that someone on my team over the years has written some kind of article about AGR and how to use it. AGR is pretty powerful, and sometimes it's pesky too. So you want to make sure that when you're using the AGR function, you're aggregating the right dimensions and getting the correct value.
All right. And then I'll go searching, and we can post that with the recording as well. Let me use this time. I'll share my screen. And I want to walk through all of our key resources with you guys that we'll be sharing and linking with the recording. If you go to learning.qlik.com, there's a lot of awesome classroom modules out there. To get here, I just went into continuous classroom and I clicked visualizations, and a bunch of free learnings popped up. You get even a better experience if you log in with your Qlik ID in the top right. But really great ways to get started or even expand your knowledge on visualizations. So check out learning.qlik.com. Out on community, we said we have the design blog. There's a bunch of posts out there from Patrick on top visualizations, and I think even more to come, you were saying, Patrick?
Sure is.
Sure is. And then I will say, if you want to come to more of these sessions, you can go to support programs Q&A with Qlik. And you'll see, obviously, today's session, and then our next sessions are up here, Qlik Replicate. And then we're going to do a cloud-focused item in October. So we hope to see you there. Another way for you to register, let me pull it up, is just using this QR code right here. So feel free to take out your phones and register now. And don't put them away, because we have another QR code after this, which is with the survey. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, and we'd love to hear from you. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you panelists for your expertise. I always learn a lot during these sessions on my own, so I love that I get to host these and get to know all of the tricks. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. See you guys.
And
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one.